everyone, I'm Carl Bierock. Welcome to the Jaguar Football Podcast. And today we have a very special guest with us. We have none other than Ray Halbrook from Livestream STL. And Ray, pleasure to meet you. And thank you so much for coming on our show today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, so wanted to start off and just kind of talk to you about how did you start Livestream STL? It seems like such a novel concept, but it plays a very important role in our community.
Yeah, well, it started way back in around 2018. We were actually, my wife and I, we were working at a church and was trying to find ways to live stream some of the stuff we were doing, which ended up turning into about a year search for something that was going to work. Obviously, this was before pre-COVID, so it was all pre-COVID, and we came across something that we thought would work. So we were trying it out at our church, and while I was trying to, kind of get used to and get more and more information on using it, I came across a guy that was more of an influencer than anything else, and good friend of mine now, and he ended up really just kind of opening the door to a ton of information. And he was actually using this to help businesses. And so we thought, hey, well, we might try to do the same thing. Well, didn't quite go in that direction at first, but I had a friend of mine, a good friend of mine, Steve Ringling, lives out at Hillsboro, calls me up. This was September 2018. And we are taking a look at, he gave me a call. He's like, hey, my daughters are playing volleyball out at Hillsboro. Would you want to maybe, try this live stream thing? So we went out there and did a couple, 3 games for them. And, we were basically producing an ESPN-ish style, game on the high school level. Ended up turning into those 3 games. We had 25, 30, 40 people to start, and it jumped in basically in 3 games over 100 people. So I was like, maybe we're onto something here. And everybody that was watching, they were just really appreciative. And so I was like, well, this is too good of a lead here to pass up. And that began the beginning stages of Livestream STL. We started thinking maybe there's something to this. So we ended up taking that the rest of that year and just kind of test marketing it to different schools, high schools. 2019, we were this close to not doing any kind of summer stuff. And lo and behold, 2019, we decided, one of my announcer guys that I started working with, Jeff Whitener, says, I think you're making a huge mistake by not doing any kind of baseball over the summer. So we decided to kind of adopt the American Legion. And when that happens, that particular first year, Festus Post 253 made a deep run into the state championship, ended up over to the Mid-South Regional over in Hastings, Nebraska. This was, late July, early August 2019. And they ended up winning the Mid-South Regional over in Hastings. Ended up on ESPN the next week for the national championship, the World Series for the American Legion. So we got a good taste of that first year, and that really kind of set us up for that late 2019 season. The problem with 2019 was COVID was starting to hit, and so we were still doing a ton of just just guinea pigging different sports and whatnot, but we got into football, and I decided to go over to my old alma mater over at Herculaneum High School. Graduate of 1990. Yeah, that was a long time ago. But we had a really great first season with Herky and a handful of other schools, but that it just ended up kind of moaning into a ton of other things. We were doing baseball, we were doing basketball, we were doing football. We did a little bit of hockey here and there. And so, it kind of springboarded us to the point to where we were kind of doing this on a regular basis. So we decided to, you know, um, bring this in front of the administrators and the superintendents. Some of the superintendents were loving what we were doing. The problem was trying to be able to find something that was affordable, because what we were doing was, a little bit more. And this was before Huddle, even before Huddle really
Right.
kind of came out with a ton of their new equipment too. And I feel like, Huddle has its place, but it's still not the same as a real broadcast. So,
Sure.
that's why we kind of stuck around with the whole thing, and ended up, this kind of ended up springboarding into a regular thing once COVID hit. I was working part-time. Well, I was a full-time guy. I worked 10 years in IT, kind of freelancing, and a ton of that stuff when COVID hit we ended up losing, and just kind of pushed us to the forefront to be able to do what we do with live stream STL on a full-time basis. So, it was a blessing and a cursing, I guess, at the same time, but we were able to kind of take advantage of it while we could. And we've been, going at it ever since. I'm full-time. We've got a crew of about 5 or 6 other announcers, a couple of other producers, and we're always looking to expand. And we've expanded outside of high school into into college. Jefferson College. We had a 5-year contract with Jefferson College a few years back, and then this particular summer we picked up St. Louis Community College as well. So we'll be doing 2 JUCO teams this season, and then we also picked up a ton of semi-professional leagues. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Women's Football Alliance, but the St. Louis Slam. We are the official streaming company of the St. Louis Slam, who won the national championship this year. It's women's tackle football. That's a big deal now.
Yeah.
And,
Well, Ray, it seems like you really found your niche, because you
yeah.
talked about Huddle, and then I just think about, like, a couple of my sons play baseball as well.
Mhm.
And so just the streaming on the apps is just amazing, that the technology exists, that
Yeah.
people can take a cell phone and broadcast all around the world. I mean, it's just unfathomed to think about how that has evolved. And I imagine that you've been involved in some very big football games. Is there any plays in particular that really stand out, that you think about, gosh, I was so lucky to be there? Then number two, we have that on tape, so to speak.
Sure. Yeah. So the last 2 seasons, we've covered some great football. Last season, we had a deep run from Eureka. We had a deep run from the Seckman Jaguars. We had a deep run from Hillsboro. I think our big topper last season was the Hillsboro win over Luther North. I remember that Saturday day. It was so cold, but man, it was really surprised me, because Luther North has kind of a reputation of being a really good football team. And Hillsboro had their number that year. They came back and won this year, but they beat Festus. But those 2 particular games, the Hillsboro game, the Festus game this season, we were able to catch Festus all the way up to the semifinals. They beat Warrenton out the snow-covered football field. That was a lot of fun. Cold but fun. But 2 great seasons for Hillsboro and Festus this year down in Jefferson County. We've had these great runs with you guys over here with Seckman as well. One of these years we're going to see you guys get past Jackson, but hey, Jackson's a tough team, and when you play those big teams, it's a toss-up. It can go any direction. But also, Eureka, we really thought Eureka was going to have a good run this year. They kind of got snubbed by Washington this year, but all in all, the last 2 years have been an amazing season.
Sounds like it. And I'm glad you brought up like Festus and Hillsboro, because it's great to see Jefferson County teams put in the spotlight, and appreciate, we'll get there someday. I know deep down Seckman will. But when you think about, like, even Northwest, their program is on the rise. So this does good for, I would say, the whole community, to have really strong football programs that can compete with either city schools or St. Charles County schools.
Agreed. I mean, a lot of the teams are on the rise this season. And, we kind of took a chance on Northwest this year, but we really made an effort to, just kind of make some inroads over there. And, Coach Scott Gerling over there, great guy, great poise, has really given them a whole new look to the Northwest Lions. And, to see them even, be able to host, this is the first time they've ever hosted a district in quite some time. Northwest just really struggled. They've always had a struggling team, but this particular group seems like kind of a special group, and we've kind of gotten to know a few of those players as well. But everything's looking up. I feel like for the Jefferson County area here, DeSoto, we were real surprised this year. Coach Russ Schmidt over at DeSoto ends up getting the JCAA Coach of the Year, which blew me away because 2 years ago, I mean, they were just in shambles. And to see teams like that, make big runs and big strides to better their programs, always good for the county.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And, along those lines, what was the big surprise this year coming out of the football season? This could apply to, all the schools in the area. What really stood out that, going into the season, you're like, maybe you had some questions. And then by the time the season wrapped up, you're like, boy, you know what? They really changed my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we'll kind of a little bit talking again here about kind of a few up and coming teams. The big team that really was really written off at the beginning of the season was the Crystal City Hornets. There's no doubt about it. Crystal City, I sat down with their brand new coach over there, Adam Sims, and I said, "You've got 15 players on the team." He goes, "Well, we're supposed to get a few more." This was before school season starts. And he's like, we're going to get a few more, so we might have enough to be able to play 11 on 11. So you think about schools that small. I know the leader, the radio station, KJFF, a lot of these folks, these different outlets were definitely writing these guys off because it's like, there's no way they're going to make it through a season. And when I said, Coach, I said, just keep them uplifted and keep them going, and not only did they make it through the season, they made it all the way to the district championship. Now they lost to St. Vincent, who ended up making a pretty doggone deep run into the state championship. But, and they were state champ favorites, St. Vincent was, but, Crystal City, to me, was the surprise team of the year here, along with DeSoto. But strength is what I was looking at this season. I mean, I've seen a lot of teams. There wasn't very many teams that recessed and got worse. My Herky Black Cats, they struggled quite a bit, but it was I was really looking forward to Eureka. I was looking forward to you guys over there at Sackman. It's always Festus and Hillsboro. It seems like every year always gives a deep run as well. But, we took a team even outside of the county. Perryville Pirates made a really deep run too, made it all the way to the district championship, got beat by Festus pretty bad, but they ended up moving down to the small school conference to start the year 2 years ago. And I really thought, hey, after this, there's a good chance that the success that you have maybe here and maybe even the next year will get them back into the large school group. They'll do that from time to time. They'll end up, moving down like Crystal City a couple 3 years ago. They completely jumped out of the conference and went independent. They've been independent for the past 3 years. And it's been a help. I mean, sometimes you've got to backtrack and say, what, we need to kind of rebuild our team and go from there. And they have been successful stories out of each one of them, so that's been great for the county.
I would agree with like it raises all boats when the county schools succeed, and we're just happy to see those programs continue. Let's kind of switch gears here, and of course we're on the Jaguar Football Podcast, so let's talk a little segment football now. But wanted to ask you about back-to-back 10-1 seasons. Where do you see this program going? What's your conversations with people? You meet a lot of folks out there. What's the mood out there when you're covering these games?
Well, I'll tell you, 2 years ago when we saw them make that deep run again, and there's a little bit of a different contrast between the seasons. 2 years ago, I thought, man, this could be something huge, and you guys have been running that Wildcat for quite a while. You guys have got it down to a T. It's hard to beat sometimes, and unless you've got a great defense to be able to stop it, it's not going to get stopped. So, but 2 years ago, that Wildcat was clicking. It was clicking on all cylinders. I think the difference between 2 years ago and this past season here might have just been the scheduling more than anything else, because sometimes you're just dealt what you get for your schedules. And, this particular season, the schedule I felt was, once, especially after about 3 or 4 games, we look into this, hey, this could end up being kind of a facade, so to speak. I don't want to speak that ill will, but I want to say, you know, Sackman wasn't able to play the caliber teams that they needed to play to be able to get ready to go for those district playoffs this season. And I felt like that particular thing hurt the Jaguars this season. But my goodness, I mean, you take both seasons and you say, hey, both seasons magical. And for them to be able to make the deep runs, regardless of who they were playing, was just something, because it takes a village to keep the team together, and it takes a village even outside. And I'm talking to these parents out there, because there's a ton of great parents in your community here. Talked to quite a few of them, great folks that love, because I know Sackman Jaguars. And you don't know this, I was actually a Seckman. I didn't graduate from Seckman, but I went to Seckman until I was a freshman, and made the basketball team the day I found out I'm making the basketball team, because that's a big deal to make a basketball team.
Sure.
Freshman year, I found out I was moving, and I was moving down to Herculaneum. And I was so devastated, but at the same time, it's really, really cool to be able to still say, hey, I grew up in the Seckman district all the way till I was a freshman, and then jumped over to Herky and finished it up. But, both communities, amazing communities that, Jaguar football wasn't even on the map even back then, so it was something that you guys can definitely be proud of this season, especially the last couple seasons here, to say, hey, we've really built a program that is going to last. And I even can see, a lot down the road here, with your, the feeder teams. I'll see them on Facebook and things. They're doing different things and stuff. And I'm like, they're running the Wildcat way down in like 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and I'm like, that's nuts. But that's what it takes. I mean, feeder programs are so key for your community.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the program's strong, just for the high school level, 185 players. I mean, unheard of. And I
Yeah.
think you got me by a couple years, not much, but I graduated in 93,
Okay.
out in the Chicago suburbs. Back
Nice.
then, it was 4 teams. You had your freshman, sophomore, JV, varsity.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't know if it's a Missouri thing or not, where we don't have a lot of sophomore teams, but just the history. I'm a little bit newer to the area, but just the history of where 1 or 2 game wins, and then to take it to this. And I get it. Folks may feel that, due to the strength of schedule, but I look at this as you play the people, you play the teams that are on your schedule.
Yep.
And you mentioned it before at the top of the show here, that Jackson is a very good team. And
Mm.
going into the game, I felt that the team had a lot of confidence. And you look at the stat line when it was over, and not knowing the outcome of the game, but if you saw Brady Ambrose rumble for 250 plus yards and 2 touchdowns,
Right.
you'd be feeling pretty good about your chances there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was talking to a lot of the officials up in the booth for the games leading up to that week. And I kept saying, if there's a year that Seckman's going to get over the hump, this is it, because I really felt like, Jackson, from what was hearing. Now, I don't keep up with Jackson a ton, until you see him in the playoffs. And, but, you know, the thing I kept seeing was, hey, their offense didn't seem as potent this year. Plus, they had a couple losses already on the season as well for Jackson. But like I kept telling all these guys, I said, if there's a year, this is the year that they need to do it. Now we have no idea what's going to be dealt next season, but it could be the same situation where you've got a strong offense again with the Wildcat, and it works, and you're able to make that deep run. And who knows what Jackson puts together. Jackson's a different monster down there. They pride that football team too, but they've been doing it for quite a while. And you're either you're eating, drinking, sleeping Jackson Indian football down there, and it's been like that for quite a while. So again, no diss here to Sackman at all, but I mean, it's so great that you're in a position to be able to continue to build, and be in a position right now to where you can make this a long, deep run for years to come.
Yes, very fortunate, because when you think about it, some of the underclassmen that got a lot of playing time, they're just going to get better. And
Yes.
every year a roster turns over, you lose people to graduation and things like that. But I would agree with you that the future does look bright for Seckman football, and having that pipeline down at the junior level
Yeah.
that just keeps growing. I mean, it's not rebuild, it's reload. The
Yeah.
mentality each
Yeah.
and every year.
Yeah. When you were mentioning back when we all graduated, we didn't have that back then. I mean, feeder teams were just, what the heck is that? And when we first came on the scene here as live stream STL, that was an adjustment for me to be able to say, never kept up with this all that much, but man, that has got to be where it's at. We're talking 5, 6, 7 years ago, and the amount of feeder teams, they're everywhere, which is great. I mean, start your kids out young, keeps them off the streets, keeps them out of trouble, it keeps them in a situation where they're consistently working on themselves. So I mean, feeder teams definitely, there's not a lot of downside to it, but it was something that we had never even thought of back when we were growing up.
No, you just got on a team and you were just happy to be on that team back
Right.
when you were younger in middle school and things like that. So yeah, it's just amazing how youth sports in general, and that could be a podcast for another day, has just evolved
Yep.
from in the last 20, 30 years. I mean, it's a machine, and yeah, it's just amazing that the time and effort that kids are putting into honing their craft at a young age is, and it translates into success should they play in high school or even maybe continue on at the collegiate level.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if you're young and you love sports, you better get involved, because the only the only person that's keeping you back from that whole thing is you. So get involved, definitely.
Yeah. Well, Ray, I'm so glad you came on the podcast today. I know we're coming up on time, and of course, you have some social media sites that folks can tune into and learn more
Sure.
about live stream STL.
Absolutely. You can check us all out on Facebook, YouTube, X, Instagram, all at Livestream STL. We also have a website, livestreamstl.tv. You can check that out on your phone or your computer. And if you are Roku savvy and you've got a Roku, you can actually download the Livestream STL app on Roku. We're looking to expand on that down the road too, to Apple TV and to Fire Stick. But right now we're on Roku, and just love being able to have high school football on TV. How about that?
That can't beat it. Can't beat it. I already missed the season, and we just have to wait until next August to get this rolling again. And we
Yeah.
have our socials as well, so please check out our Facebook and also our YouTube page. We put the podcast up on Facebook and the YouTube page, so that way you could watch this in glorious HD. But
Right.
wanted to allow you, Ray, the final thoughts. We always give our guests the chance to take us out. So
Yeah.
just wondering if we can get your final thoughts about Seckman football, and again, where you see this program going in the future.
Hey, they can only go up at this point. I mean, there's the bar has definitely been raised. You know, I love what coaches his mo every week when we interview him. It's always positive. It's always hey, what can we do to get better, and what can we do to get to that next, be able to raise that bar. So I love what's going on over at Second for Jaguar football right now, and I'll put another little shameless plug. If you haven't checked out our website and all that, there's actually games that you can watch the replay on if you're interested as well. So check that out on livestreamstl.tv and on the Roku app as well. So, if you're having a little Seckman Jaguar, fix and you need it, jump on over there and check it out. You can just scroll down to the football section and scroll over to our game. So we had a few great games this season that we covered for you guys as well. So appreciate it.
No problem, Ray. Thank you so much again for coming on the podcast, and we look forward to more future games and more discussions as we get deeper into the off season. So again, thank you so much for being on our show today.
Thanks, Carl, for having me. We appreciate it so much.
Thank you.